This was where he walked every morning. Weather permitting, he'd be up at 7 o'clock and take the walk around here. That's how he got his exercise every day. And if he could, if I was visiting, he could drag me out of bed, I'd come with him. Of course, he would always forget that I'd come in from California, and his 7 o'clock is my 4 o'clock. So I didn't always make it out here. When I did, it was wonderful. It was a great time to be with him. We'd walk around here, and he'd just tell me what's going on in his life, which was always very exciting stuff. But he'd be amazed at this turnout because he was such a humble man. I'm sure you can hear this over and over. It's going to be like a recurring theme, what humility he had, and he just didn't think he deserved this kind of attention. Of course he did. We all know he did, but it was tough for him to understand that. He didn't think he should be singled out any more than any other service people. But here we are. And he would love this. He would love it. He would be very proud. So thanks so much. I'd like to read a wonderful piece written by Dad's dear friend Bill Barr, who was here somewhere. There's Bill. Bill wrote it. Ow. Stop it, Dad. Bill wrote a wonderful piece called Tom's Right Hand. And to read this, I'd like to bring up, enlist the help of my brother John, his wife Vicki, and my wife Elizabeth. This is called Tom's Right Hand. Like the rest of us, Tom's right hand has 4 fingers and an opposing thumb, good for gripping. However, there is a matter about Tom's right hand that has recently come to light that needs to be recognized. His natural humility has kept this information as private. Now we have been able to research the matter, and out of it has emerged a remarkable piece of history. Who else can say they have gripped the hands of the following famous people?
With Lieutenant Colonel James H. Doolittle, aboard the Hornet aircraft carrier on its way to avenge the Pearl Harbor attack in April 1942 by bombing Tokyo in retaliation. And again, with Jimmy Doolittle when they delightedly met each other on the ground alive in China after surviving their parachute experiences in that stormy night.
With General Chiang Kai-shek in the palace, all the raiders there were forced to wear their flight gear while in China, except for Tom, who was later able to extradite his duffel bag containing his dress uniform. Unable to discern the rank, General Chiang looked around the well-dressed Tom as the proper American to praise for their gallantry by shaking his right hand vigorously. With Madame Chiang Kai-shek at a tea party in the palace, she was most gracious, and she shook the right hand of the same well-dressed American that her husband had so honored.
And with General Hap Arnold and Secretary of the Treasury Henry Morgenthau, representing President Roosevelt on June 27, 1942, at Bowling Field in Washington, D.C., after Tom and a number of raiders had made their way back to the States from China. General Arnold and Secretary Morgenthau presented each raider with a distinguished flying cross by pinning on the medal, stepping back at attention, smartly saluting each raider, followed by an ardent, congratulatory handshake.
With General Dwight D. Eisenhower on November 23, 1942, when the general landed in western Algeria to personally command Operation Torch and fortify Doolittle's 12th Air Force. Tom had a chance to shake hands with the then 4-star general.
With Winston Churchill. Tom's B-26 bomber and crew in North Africa enjoyed a weekend pass to Morocco when the Casablanca Conference in January of 1943 was underway. Tom stepped into a hotel elevator occupied by Churchill himself, who took notice of Tom's uniform and ribbons. When it came to light that he was a Tokyo Raider, Churchill reached out and shook his hand, remarking how those April raids led to the Battle of Midway 6 weeks later, which gave us a needed victory against Japan.
With Margaret Burke White, the World War II generation would remember her as the famous photographer whose dramatic pictures graced the covers of such popular magazines as Time, Life, and Fortune. In 1943, she was assigned to North America during Operation Torch. On one occasion, Tom with 3 other airmen had dinner with Margaret, providing Tom with a limp handshake, sad to say, rather than a goodnight kiss.
You people are going to have to forgive me here. I'm going to have to pull a Marco Rubio. That'll be the first of a few. With General George S. Patton, Jr., as the war was drawing to a close, Tom was one of 30,000 Krieges crammed into a prisoner camp in Wolfsburg, Bavaria, built to accommodate 3,000. Patton's Third Army was running roughshod over the faltering Germans at this time and were in this neighborhood. On April 29th, 1945, Third Army tanks crashed through the barbed wire gate at Wolfsburg Prison, much to the joy of Tom and his fellow prisoners. When General Patton himself proceeded to inspect the Stalag, he entered Tom's very building. Things were so jammed that he could hardly get through and stumbled right into Tom's grasp. We'll count this as a handshake, even though George's dignity had been upset, making him quite surly at the moment.
And with President Harry S. Truman. When the Cincinnati terminal was converted to a museum years ago, President Truman came to the dedication ceremony. The new museum featured a display of the Doolittle Raid and Tom's part in it. When the president toured the premises, he met Tom and shook his hand with a politician's vigor.
With Bob Hope. On the occasion of General Doolittle's 90th birthday in 1986, Tom had the opportunity to shake the hand of old Ski-Nose and offer up a few fresh jokes for his consideration.
And with George H.W. Bush at the Doolittle reunion in 1997, the president sought out Tom to get some advice on child rearing and thanked him profusely with a hearty handshake.
With Neil Armstrong on June 8, 2012 at the Tri-State Warbird Museum Gala, Tom and Neil Armstrong were among the celebrities featured during the program. Though seated far apart, Armstrong made sure he took the opportunity to speak with Tom and shake his hand that evening. So that's quite a list, isn't it?
I have one more, probably the most important hand. Was the one he held for over 60 years, that of his wife, Esther.
Oh, Vic, we were doing okay till then. Well, the last couple of Dad's years here, he had a lot of challenges he had to face as he transitioned, because he went through different transitions that he had to go through. First of all, he had to give up his driving, he had to lose his license and give up his independence. And that was a very tough thing for him. But he adjusted to it right away. Within a day or two, he'd just gotten on with his life and just didn't look back and said, okay, this is what life has dealt me. So he just handled it so admirably. It was such an inspiration. The next thing, he had to move out of his condo and get into assisted living. And that was a tough transition too. He didn't want to do that, but he realized, with the help of some friends that really encouraged him to do it, we got him to move over to Twin Towers, and he adapted to that within, I'd say about 2 hours? And he never looked back. He said, this is what I have to do, and let's just move ahead. So he was there, and he did so well there. The people were wonderful, and he had a great time. Unfortunately, that was kind of short-lived. He had to transition to the Fort Thomas VA hospital in full-time care. And once again, a tough transition, but he knew it needed to be done. He got over there, and again, he adapted to it and handled it so admirably. But to me, that's one of the biggest lessons, biggest inspirations I've learned from him. I think he handled it very much the same way he handled his war experience. He just faced what life gave him and said, okay, this is what I'm dealing with now, and I've got to make the most of it. So we didn't do it alone, though. We had a lot of friends and family that helped us a lot. And I really, really want to thank the staff at Twin Towers and at Fort Thomas VA Hospital. They were just so compassionate, so caring, and they took care of him so well. We just felt so confident that he was in the right place. Really wonderful. But we'll get some other thank yous. I'm going to enlist my little big brother to help me.
Thank you. There are three people in particular that came into Dad's life in the last number of years, and we need to acknowledge them now. And they are Pat Nagel, and I don't know where she's sitting. There's Pat. Oh, lucky, they're close to one another. Pat Nagel, Bill Barr, and Ray Hughes. Please help me thank them. And family, especially. Kid brothers, especially Don and Rita Griffin. Please help me with welcoming.
Both of us live out of the area, so we couldn't have gotten through this without the five of you and all our other friends. So thank you so much. I think that's it for us. All right, thanks.